Shalom Chaverim. It's been a while since I've done a video, but kind of in the mood today. I've been studying Masechet Gittin, Perek Nun Zayin Aleph, chapter 57, Amid 57, and it's pretty controversial in this section of the Talmud. We have a story of Onkelos, who is inquiring about converting to Judaism. And before he converts, now some say this is the Onkelos who translated the Targum, and some say it isn't. There's different opinions. It's hard to exactly know for sure. I kind of tend to lean that it's the Onkelos of the Targum, but I can't say 100%. But anyway, interesting that Onkelos, he performs necromancy, and this is before he converted, so in a way he's allowed to do this. The Torah forbids this, but he hasn't converted yet. And so we have this story where he first talks to Titus, and then I'm not going to go through the whole daf, but there's a story here where he actually speaks to Bilaam. It says, Azal aske la Bilaam bin Gida. Onkelos went and raised the spirit of Bilaam through necromancy. Amarle, Onkelos asked him, Ma'an chashiv bahahu alma. Who is prominent in that world? He's saying in the world to come. Amarle, Bilaam answered him, Israel. Mahu le'ida buche bahu. Onkelos asked him, should I join them, convert to Judaism? Amarle, Bilaam answered him, Lo tidrosh shelomam vetovasam ko hayamim. Seek neither their peace nor their benefit all the days. So here Bilaam gives kind of a negative answer, and he says, Amarle, Onkelos asked him, Dine dehahu gavra ba'amai. What is that man's, your punishment? What is Bilam's punishment, he asked. Amarle, Bilam answered him, Beshikvat zara rosachas. I am punished in boiling semen. And then, so we see that he pulls up Bilam, and it's just interesting how Bilam is in this section, as well as we come to the next little question here of Onkelos. He decides to raise another person up from the dead, and this is controversial. And it says, Azal aske bin gida lefoshea Israel. Onkelos then went and raised the sinners of Israel through necromancy. Now it says the sinners, but really if you go to the footnotes say, although this expression is in the plural, the following narrative refers to a specific sinner. And this is actually not in the original version of the Talmud. In the original writings, we have here this translation, Azal aske bin gida leyeshu hanotzri amarle. So what does it say? He says he went and asked Yeshua hanotzri. Yeshu hanotzri. So here it actually refers to the sinner as Jesus of Nazareth, and many Christians are really offended that this is in the Talmud. They say because of this that we shouldn't study the Talmud or listen to the rabbis. The Talmud is satanic, da-da-da. Well, let's just try and understand why this is written here. And there's arguments that Yeshua is not even mentioned in the Talmud at all. But let's just say he is here. And it says, Onkelos asked him anyway. He asked Yeshu, who is prominent in that world, the world to come? Amarle, he answered Onkelos, Israel. And it says, Mahu le'ida buche bahu. Onkelos asked him, should I join them, convert to Judaism? Amarle, he answered Onkelos, Tov asam de rosh, the asam lo tid rosh. Seek their benefit, do not seek their harm. Because he says, whoever touches them is like one who touches the pupil of his eye. Whoever harms the Jewish people harms himself. So here, Yeshua gives a positive answer, a good answer about Israel, not like Bilaam. And then it says, Amarle, Onkelos asked him, Dine dehu gavra b'mai. What is that man's your punishment? He's asking, Yeshua, what is your punishment? Amarle. He answered Onkelos, Bitsoa ro sochas. I am punished in boiling feces. The Amarmar, this accords to that which the master said. And he says, whoever divrei chachem, whoever mocks the words of the sages is punished in boiling feces. So here, Bilaam is punished in something. And this, the rabbis say that this has got to do with Mida Keneged Mida, because Bilaam sent out women, Moabite women, to seduce the Jewish men. Now he's being punished measure for measure. And they say Yeshu here is boiling in feces. Why? Because of Mida Keneged Mida, measure for measure. What did Yeshua do that the sages say he deserved this? And it's not what most think. It's not what, like, people say, oh, the rabbis say Yeshua is this or that. The reason the Talmud only gives is because he despised the words of the sages. He went against the Sanhedrin. He's punished for something that is despicable. Now, it was like he was talking Lashon Hara to the sages. And this is what Torah commands us. We are supposed to listen to the rabbis, listen to the sages. So what did Yeshua do? Well, Yeshua, this is not even a new concept, but we'll show you here exactly what they're talking about in the Brit Hadashah. So Yeshua here, he encounters some of these individuals. And this is another mistake that Christians and Hebrew rooters that are against the rabbis misunderstand. When Yeshua accuses or rebukes Pharisees, he doesn't rebuke their teaching. And he doesn't even go against all Pharisees. He doesn't go against all the Jewish people. He's not against them. He doesn't hate them all. He exposes a few individuals here and there. And yes, some of the leaders, but we have to understand the historical narrative that the Sanhedrin at this time was corrupt. There was more Sadducees on board when even the Sadducees are the heretics, even in Judaism. They were sola scriptura. They did not follow oral Torah or even really the true teachings of Moshe. But it did not mean that Yeshua was against everyone. It's like saying, there's police officers that are bad. There's bad cops out in the world. But we don't say that every police officer on every force is evil. That's just ridiculous. There are some good police officers with good morals, good human beings. And so this is the same thing. We can't just put all the Pharisees and all the Jews in this category just because we see that Yeshua is exposing some of them. Anyway, he says, if only God were your father, then you would love me, because I have gone forth and come from God. Yes, I did not come by myself, but he sent me. And so he goes on and he says, you are from your father, the Satan, and you desire to carry out your father's cravings. He was a murderer from the beginning, and he has not stood in truth because he does not have truth in him. So Yeshua is rebuking these individuals here. And, in Judaism, when the rabbis argue against each other, sometimes their words are very harsh. I've seen where the Ramban Nachmanides basically argues with the Rambam Maimonides, and he says some harsh things, or even Rabbi Nachman against the Rambam. But at the end of the day, they may even say there's even talks like this in the Talmud against colleagues. It doesn't really mean that they hate them, but this is just the fire of Torah. Now, maybe Yeshua did have really harsh words, and maybe it was deeper than that, but we have to understand that the Satan is also within a person, meaning the Yetzer Hara is not so much like the Christian belief that it's a devil with horns walking around. This is what Yeshua is saying. He's exposing their inner selves. I mean, during this time, this was right before the destruction of the Beis Hamikdash, that it was all the sages know there was a lot of baseless hatred going around. But you see, still, the Torah says that we are to not speak slander. It's called Lashon Hara. We're not supposed to speak bad of the rabbis and the sages. And even if the sages tell you left when we're supposed to go right, we listen to the rabbis. And Yeshua says this in Matthew 23. But Yeshua, he was a very righteous individual. He had this type of authority, but he also himself followed the Sanhedrin. He also learned under the rabbis. This is another mistake that Christianity or Hebrew roots think, that Yeshua just popped up and said, you know what, I know everything that was passed down from Moses and on. And some Christians or Messianics or Hebrew roots think that the Sanhedrin just popped on the scene when Yeshua was here in the Gospels, and that they somehow just all of a sudden, you know what, let's be rabbis, let's change everything. No, this was passed down through Torah B'Shel Pei, all the way from Mount Sinai, all the way down to even when Yeshua and further. And so Yeshua was correcting more of their heart, more of their actions, not their teachings. And another thing, I could go on forever about man-made traditions. What is this? It's not Talmud. It's not oral Torah. Man-made traditions is something that is outside of even the concept of oral Torah, outside of Talmud. It's when they're abusing and trying to make loopholes to do what they want rather than what they were teaching. And that's a whole other lesson, but it's just like a Christian saying, oh, Shabbat is now on Sunday. That is a man-made tradition. The oral Torah even tells us Shabbat is Shabbat. The Torah tells us Shabbat is Saturday. So that is a man-made tradition. Bringing the Christmas tree into your house is a man-made tradition. Those are man-made traditions. It has nothing to do with Torah. The Talmud, the oral Torah, has everything to do with Torah. It builds off Torah and only explains what the Torah has not fully explained. Anyway, and so we see this concept where the Talmud says Yeshua was boiling in feces because he spoke slander. But this is not a new thing. We're even in Parsha Vayishev. We just finished Parsha Vayishev. And what is this about? This is about Yosef and his brothers. And what does Yosef do with Yaakov? It says he goes and he brings reports. See, we are in Parsha Vayishev. And Yosef would bring evil reports about them to their father. And the sages say that this wasn't really right. This is not something, this is being a talebearer. And Yosef should know better, that even the Torah kind of condemns being a tattletale, a talebearer. And the sages have different opinions on what these reports were, these evil reports. And you can't take everything very literal, and you can't take things totally allegorical. But there are different opinions to see different angles. And it says what did Yosef tell his father about his brothers? Our mayor said that Yosef said that the brothers were suspect of having eaten a limb torn from a living animal. According to Ar Yehuda, Yosef reported Leah's sons acted disrespectfully toward their brothers, the children of Bilhah and Zilpah, who had been the maids of Rachel and Leah, treating them like servants. And finally, Ar Shimon says that Yosef reported his brothers were setting eyes upon local women. And we see here in the Sepharno as well that he was a lad. He was only a lad. He sinned by telling tales about his brothers, for he was inexperienced. He could not foresee where this would lead. Anyway, there's different views, and even in the Zor Hamor, it says the reports brought to his father were evil only relatively. For someone of Joseph's stature to relate such matters was most inappropriate. Joseph most certainly did not accuse his brothers of eating flesh from live animals, as a superficial reading of the Midrashic text in Bereshit Rabbah would say, make us believe. Neither did he accuse the sons of Leah of treating the sons of Bilhah and Zilpah as inferiors, or his other brothers of committing incest with women not permitted to them as partners in marriage. What the Torah does hint here is the description of Joseph as a talebearer is precisely because Joseph was personally fastidious in observing every nuance of Torah-approved conduct. He became judgmental of any brother who was somewhat less stringent in his observance. He felt obliged to tell his father in order that he would reprimand the person concerned. Anyway, it goes on and it says, why was Joseph punished? Joseph's behavior and talebearing did not benefit him as he attained a level of righteousness. So anyway, there's more and more views from the rabbis, but the rabbis really say that Joseph was a Zadik. And he did say that his brothers, his mother and father would bow down to him. The Torah also says that we are to honor our mother and father. So this came across kind of negative. Also, Joseph's brothers threw him in the pit, and they did not kill him because they figured if he was truly guilty, then he would die by natural causes, or the snakes in the pit would kill him. They would literally do it themselves, which could have been decreed by heaven. But if he was innocent and truly these messages were truly from God, that he would be freed and his dreams would come true. And this is what it was, that Joseph was actually giving the truth, and this, in a matter of truth, is legit. Not only that, that's not the only concept of a Zadik being a talebearer or speaking slander. We see in Exodus, in Kli Yakar talks about Moshe Rabbeinu. He says, according to the opinion of the sages, he became leprous because he slandered the Jewish people. He said, Vehen lo ya'amenu li. They would not believe me. This is a sign that there were no longer quarrelsome people and talebearers among them. And it says Moshe would not have been punished over them, since our sages said it's permissible to speak slander about quarrelsome people. And it says Moshe was punished because of them. Our sages say Israel was redeemed because there was no slander among them. Even in the simple explanation, the verse describes how Moshe's hand was healed of leprosy, alludes to the healing of the sin of the slander from Israel. So in a way, Moshe is accused of being talking slander, but really it was truth, and he was even suffered on behalf of Israel. This is from the Kli Yakar. And so what is going on here? That Yeshua is also a type, well, the role of Mashiach ben Yosef. And what is the Mashiach ben Yosef? It is the suffering servant. It is the one who suffers on behalf of Israel. Even, I believe, is the Vilna Gaon that says that, or in Shlei HaKodesh, that Yosef, the Mashiach ben Yosef, will be the Gilgul of Yosef. And so the sages say that Yeshu was boiling in feces. And what does this really mean? It's not even that they're really attacking Yeshu. They're not really attacking him. They're attacking Christianity. And so the Christians had this Talmud censored so that they would not be offended by the Jewish people, the sages mocking Yeshu. But it's more a mocking towards Christianity. And not only that, they censored it, fearing that the Christians would burn all their books, their Talmud, which the Christians actually did anyway. But even going down below and suffering, this is not even new. This is it right in the Brit Hadashah in First Peter. It says that Mashiach went down and preached unto the spirits of heaven in prison. And also in Ephesians chapter 4, verse 5 or 7, it says that he went up into the heights, he led the captive, and he gave gifts to mankind. But it says that he went down and he went up, he went below. And so this is nothing new in Judaism, that the Mashiach went down. And a lot of people don't understand. He wasn't just there to visit. He was being purged. This is why when he came up, Miriam could not touch him. He was filled with filth when he went below. It says in the Brit Hadashah, he became sin who knew no sin. He took on the sins of Israel. He became filthy, tameh, impure. And so he had to be purged of this. And he went below. And this is what the Mashiach has to do. He has to become filthy. He has to appear like he's boiling in feces. See, Christians take things way too... They let their emotions get involved when they read things and not understand there could be something deeper here. And maybe you may not agree with me still, but in order to understand where the sages are coming from, the Talmud is not satanic, it's not evil, but you only get better understanding of the Brit Hadashah, the better understanding of the Mashiach when you actually study the sages. And so that is just my little opinion of me studying in the Gemara, Masechet Gittin, and just showing a perspective, and maybe hopefully you can open some minds to those that are against the Talmud. On that note, Shavua Tov.